My Pokemon card sales doubled in October, and here's why. Now, I started selling Pokemon cards in the middle of September, just basically flipping singles and a couple of graded cards to try and knock out some debt in my personal life. And if you want to see a breakdown of that first month, there is a video on my channel. But since I had started in the middle of the month and had to take a week off, I didn't have as many sales, and this past month I was basically able to grind. So the strategy in the beginning stayed the same. I was basically just buying lots of raw cards or collections at between 70 and 85% value and flipping it for 95%. I mentioned in my last video that I like to stay below market as much as I can, just because I want people who come to me to feel like they're getting a good deal, because I would rather the community get the cards that they want than squeeze out every single dollar. And at the end of the video, we're gonna actually talk about how my strategy has shifted going into November. And if we take a look at the spreadsheet real quick, we can actually see a comparison where I did $3,188 in total sales in September. In October, we got $6,433, which is just over double. Now, really, that just comes from having the opportunity to grow and being able to be more consistent because, like I said, in September, I started too late and I had to take a break. Now, if I switch to only look at October, we can actually see the numbers.
Which, speaking of sales, if you're interested in buying any cards from me, you can check the links in my description to my Twitter and my Instagram, which is where I run all of my sales.
Now, if you look at this graph, you can actually see that we are separating singles from graded, and I did sell a lot more singles. And actually, a lot of the graded that sold, I just sold to GameStop because those cards weren't moving for me online as easily, and I had opportunities to buy single cards. Now, if you look here, we did a total of 229 sales, which is basically just the cards that were sent out, but it doesn't take into account the bulk, so it was more than that, probably closer to the 275 range. Now, the Pokemon market has actually been crazy through this entire month, with so many alt arts and SIRs just jumping up in price, like the Charizard from 151 that bubbled up to like $200, which I kind of maybe bought at a bad time, and it's now worth around 180. But one of my favorite cards that I've dealt with in this month has been this Greninja EX. Now, I have it here in a PSA 10, but I did own the raw version of this card that I bought for $230, and then I sold it just about a week later for $250. And now it's already sitting at, I believe, like $300. I'll have a comp somewhere up here. And then not long after that, I had the opportunity to buy it in a PSA 10, which is actually the most expensive card that I've ever put money into. But the market on it has been going so crazy that I bought it for about $475, with the market right now sitting at about $660 after just a month. This has been a really wild time to be in Pokemon, and there is a lot of money to be made. There's a lot of cool collecting to be done, and there's so many good sets that are coming out. You should let me know in the comments if I should cover upcoming sets, because it's something that I would be interested in doing, but I don't know if anyone wants to actually hear that from me. And this is a card that I'm actually going to be selling at my booth at the Long Island TCG show, which if you're going, you should come and say hi. It is a 2-day show at the Hilton on Long Island. I'll have a graphic up for it. I've been to the show once and I vended at it once, and it's a really wonderful time, and I've met some really good people through that show. And if you want a chance at this card and many others, you should definitely go. And like we saw from last month, Twitter was actually my best point of sales. It just so happens that when I post on Twitter, it takes to the algorithm in a way that shows it to a bunch of people in the Pokemon card community, where Instagram is kind of isolated to the people that already follow you, which is totally cool. I've bought some really cool cards, especially from Elliot Does Pokemon, but the trend kind of seems to be that sales on Twitter just kind of pop off a little bit more. And if we move over to the sale month, we can see that we did total sales of $6,433 with a net profit of $2,298. Now, just like last month, I will be taking about a third of it home because I am doing this to pay off debt and I need to pay myself out fairly. So I'll be taking home $760. The only weird thing about this month is last month I was actually able to put that total amount towards the loans, and I was able to knock it off a considerable amount. But in October, my family was actually hit with a couple of things that we unexpectedly had to pay for. So this money will be going towards debt minimums, but I'm gonna have to spread it out across and not take a significant chunk out like I did in the first month. So basically for November and December, I'll be digging myself out of a little bit of a hole, and then in January, we'll be able to continue actually knocking out just straight up debt. Obviously things come up, and a debt payoff journey is a marathon, not a sprint. So we kind of just have to take the hits as we get them. But I think this has been a really successful month. Now, like I said, going into November, I do have a bit of a different strategy that I'm going to walk you through. So far, we've done all online sales, which has been very successful, and I plan on continuing it. But in November, I am vending at my first show in just about a year. Now, what I realized is that I was picking up a lot of singles, like raw cards, and I was moving them fairly easily. But if I am going to be vending at a show, I kind of want a good variety of things to sell. I want people to come up to my booth and say, hey, this person has some of everything at good prices in each area. So I ended up picking up about 30 slabs, all PSA 10s, and like one PSA 9 that was thrown in, thank you Elliot, as well as the raw cards that I've been dealing in. And I did pick up a couple of booster boxes of Surging Sparks just to kind of see how that goes. I got them at a fair price, and right now the like early market is showing that it'll sell for 150. So if by next weekend it's selling for about 125 to 140, I'll feel pretty good about it. And with that being said, I'm actually taking the first 2 weeks off of selling because right now I'm sitting at about $8,000 worth of product. I have about $450 that I can spend at the show. And overall, I believe that my portfolio is spread out really well. Now, people have asked me what I do about my inventory and how I store it. So actually, I can pull it up right here. Ugh. I basically just work out of this bin. I was keeping my personal collection in here and then I turned it into my storage for the business because it just fits a lot of stuff conveniently. So right now I do have booster boxes. I have a nice Eevee Heroes booster box. Still debating on if I want to sell that or not. I kind of do want to. I have a bunch of slabs. I have a lot of like high end and then mid ones, and high isn't too high, maybe like a couple $100s for these. And then I have binders, which this is what I typically will post out of, and I do have it organized right now. I am waiting on literally 8 other cards to put onto this front page, but this is pretty much my portfolio for what I post onto Twitter and Instagram every week, and how it's going to be displayed at the show. So I have a modern binder, and then I also have a vintage binder, which this one's filled because I'm expecting no more vintage to come in. And I think I have a pretty nice spread of everything available. But yeah, if you ever wanted to see what $8,000 worth of product looks like, it looks like this, missing a couple of cards. Now eventually, if I do need more space, I do plan on getting a storage unit because right now I live in a 2-bedroom co-op, which is basically just an apartment, but I own it, damn it. But if I can get a storage unit with AC, storing cards is no problem. I just don't have a need to do it since it can fit in a bin. I will be doing a vendor point of view video, so be sure to look out for that in the future. But for now, I do hope that this monthly recap helps you in your business and has given you a good insight into my business. But I thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.